We're practicing some basic kicks. Actually, this is what's known as Jiben Gong, which in Chinese means basic techniques. And these basic techniques is all about the kicks here. These are something that you might practice if you're warming up for your Kung Fu training. Our guest instructor, John, is going to take us through these basic series of Jiben Gong while Amy and I follow along with him. Now, just one thing. I've got a little low stool here so that I practice my kicks nice and low and it keeps me consistent and safe. In fact, if you haven't already done so, you might want to get up out of your chair and join us with this. And if you've got a low stool, that might be a good training technique for yourself as well. Make sure the coffee table's moved aside and there's nothing breakable nearby. Keep your kicks nice and low and let's have some fun with it. John, where should we start?
Let's start with what we call front toe kick.
Okay.
So to do that, we're basically going to lift our knee up, extend the foot, and then come straight back. So let's do 10 together.
All right.
Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And let's try the other side.
The other side. And by the way, you don't have to keep up with us. So you kick at your own pace. If you want to kick fast, you want to kick slow, it's all up to you. I'm doing kind of slower than them.
We'll do a little bit slower.
A little bit slow.
Help you out.
All right. Thank you, sir.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Beautiful. What's next?
Next one, let's go to ramble kick or liu tui. This one is pretty easy. You just want to go straight up and straight down with your foot. Make sure that your knee is straight the entire time.
So when John goes straight up like this, my straight up is going to be right here. So you can, again, use your low stool or whatever to be consistent and gauge where your stretch goes. If you haven't done a lot of stretching lately, this is a really good idea.
Yeah, you definitely want to stretch before, and don't go too high. If you're not comfortable with kicking up here, don't kick up here. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And balance it out with the other side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Nice. Next one.
Next one, let's do outside crescent kick. This one is just going to be one big circle to the outside.
Now, again, here is where I'm going to use my stool. So this outside crescent kick is using the stool will force me to come to the inside of the object and then over the top and down. And that's how I know I get a really good sweep across the front. Good for my basics.
For these kicks, remember to breathe. So every time I kick, I want to exhale. Ready?
Thanks for the reminder.
And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And the other side, remember to use your hips. So when I turn, I'm actually turning with the hips first. Okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Beautiful. Amy, how do you like these?
Lots of stretching required.
There are a lot of stretching in here, but it's a little bit different. It's not like a yoga stretch, is it?
No, it's not like a yoga stretch. These are a lot more dynamic, so you really want to watch out for your knees.
Tell me more about that, watching out for my knees.
So in order to prevent your knees from over twisting, you really need to watch where your foot is.
Okay.
Okay, so for the kick that we just did, it's not as dangerous, but for the next one, we really need to pay attention.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what. These are the basic techniques, just a few of what we might call basic exercises, Jiben Gong. We'll do a lot more of these, including stuff for the upper body as well, right now. Although the history of martial arts may go back millennia, in this program, we begin our exploration with Chinese Kung Fu. Well, this is in part because this style of martial art either directly or indirectly influences almost every other martial arts found throughout Asia. Japanese martial arts, Korean, and Thai, for example. In both style and technique, we see echoes of Chinese Kung Fu in almost every martial art we study in this program. Now, within China, the quintessential center of Kung Fu training was the Shaolin Temple. Here, for centuries, a special cadre of what were known as warrior monks perfected their martial skills. Because of the concentrated nature of this training over the centuries, Shaolin Kung Fu became revered as the best of the best inside China. Shaolin also establishes a spiritual connection to the practice of martial arts. And this shows up in the other martial arts we study as codes of honor, mental disciplines, and a culture of a kind of martial stoicism. Perhaps no other country in the world has a martial history as diverse as China does. There are literally hundreds of styles of martial arts in China, influenced by animals, elements of nature, and mythical heroes and warriors. Many of these martial arts made their way into the Shaolin Temple as ex-soldiers and fighters joined the temple to become monks and brought their martial arts specialties with them. But more importantly, from time to time, these martial styles left the temple and then became schools that grew up in local areas within China. One such example is White Crane Kung Fu. White Crane is characterized by a special kind of hand formation known as the crane fist, defensive postures that mimic the way the crane stands and moves, and a theory that the crane style conserves and develops something called Qing, a special type of life essence that contributes to both health and longevity. We're joined in this program by our coach, Johnny Chang, disciple of Master Jiang Jungming, senior student at the YMAA Retreat Center, America's recreation of the Shaolin Temple-style residential martial arts training, seminar leader, and coach. For 9 months out of the year, John lives at the Retreat Center, training for 8 to 10 hours a day. And he's going to bring to us the training in White Crane Kung Fu.
Let's turn our bodies, and the hands will follow the body motion. So I want to have one hand in a palm, one hand in a fist, and together towards the center. And now we turn, and then turn to the other side. Open, crane wings, across the body, slightly squat down, back to the middle, and straight down. And then stand up.
And this is our White Crane Kung Fu salute. Well, a good place to start any martial art is with basic stances. Before we go into motion, before we start to learn the different self-defense techniques, oftentimes martial arts begin with how you walk, how you stand, how you stabilize the body. So that's where we're going to begin today. Johnny, take us there.
Let's start off with what we call crane horse stance. So from here, you're going to have your feet about shoulder width apart. And to start, we're going to bring our toes in slightly and just bend your knees. And then up and down. Up and down. And you'll see this in the greeting that we just did. And up. And let's try it, let's say 5 times together. Down, up, down. Try to keep your back up straight. Up, down, up, down, up, and one more. Down,
Now,
and
while I'm
up.
down here, John, let me just ask you this question. So in the formation or in the practice of white crane style, would I change elevations or would I stay down at a particular level for the whole time? Would I be in this stance or would I come up and down like that?
In a fighting or sparring situation, you can move around as much as you want.
Okay.
In practice, as low as you can get.
As low as you can get. Got it. All right. Well, I'll stay here for now. Cool.
Okay.
What's next?
So next one we're going to do is called 7-star stance. So let's come up again. And from here, we're just going to turn our bodies to one side. So we turn, make sure you turn on the heels, and our feet we want to have about 45 degrees this way, both facing in the same direction. Your weight should be balanced in the center, 50-50. And then bend. And then to switch to the other side, we're just going to pivot on our heels. So front heel first, and then back heel. And now I'm on the other side. Make sure your back is up straight. And then switch. And switch. And switch. So for this one, you really want to make sure the distance between your knees is only about a fist away from each other.
So they're quite close together.
Yes.
One fist. You know what? This is a great time to bring in the action camera to see how close those one fist distance really is.
Let's take a closer look at that. So Amy's going to come down into a horse stance. And from here, she wants to have one fist between her knees. Good. And now she's going to turn to 7-star stance. And the same thing, test the knees. Good. And now we want to look at her feet. So we actually want to have about 45 degrees. Good. And the same thing here. This will help with your balance. Okay. Now watch the weight. You actually want to have more in the center, 50-50. So let's relax the hands. Good. Back up straight. Good. And 50-50. And now we want to turn. So turn on the heel. 1 and 2. And again, turn and turn. Good. So now really make sure that you test yourself again. The fist and the knee are about the same size. So if a fist can fit through, a knee can usually fit through. Our style of white crane is a short to mid-range fighting style. So what does that mean? It means that if I have my partner here, short to mid is I can touch him, I can punch him, I can kick him. Middle range is I can't punch him, but I can still kick him. And then long range is I can't kick, I can't hit him. Okay? So short to mid range, we're always in here. That's why we need to keep our knees close together. Or else if you're going like this with your partner, it's not good, right? So let's get back into stances. We've already had crane horse stance, and we just did 7-star stance. Now let's do false stance. So from here, we're going to shift all of our weight back. So all of our weight should be on the back leg and down. Front leg, you can touch slightly with your toe for balance, and then you actually want to angle your foot inwards a little bit. And again, for here, it's to close that knee. Okay? And to switch, we're just going to put the foot down and the other side. And again, down and switch. Down and switch. Good. One more stance we're going to do is called sitting and cross legs. So from here, we're going to start normal, and we're just going to step behind on the toe and then sink down.
Now, as he sinks down, he's almost going to the floor. I am going to go only halfway, just like you might want to go halfway if your knees don't like going all the way down to the floor, or if your legs don't feel like you're strong enough to do this, or you just have begun your journey. This might be just fine.
Okay, and then up, step out, back to normal, and then the other side, and down. Up, out, back, and down. And one more time, up, out, back, and down. Good. So anytime you practice these stances, really make sure you don't go too low. If you're going too low and pushing yourself too much, then you can develop injuries, especially with white crane. Okay? because these knees are always in. So if this feels uncomfortable for you, don't worry too much about that.
Remember, John's been practicing for 25 years, 9 years at the American Shaolin Temple, so to speak. So he's got a lot of good muscle conditioning developed there. We're just all beginning. We're just at the start of this.
Okay, if you're comfortable with that, let's do some moving drills.
Okay.
So let's come to this side.
All right.
And we're going to start with 7-star stance. So we're actually going to go to the corners this time instead of straight on.
Why don't you go in front of me? I'll follow you guys.
Okay, so if I face this back corner here, 7-star, I'm going to bring this back foot in. I'm going to turn towards this opposite corner and then step out, 7-star. Back foot in. This is false stance. Turn and out, 7-star. In, turn, and out. In, turn, out. In, turn, out. In, turn, out. And all the way down the floor.
I'm coming right up behind you there, Amy. Cool. Can we do that again? The other direction, maybe?
Sure.
All right.
So why don't you guys do it, and I'll take a look.
Perfect. All right. So we start facing into the corner already. And then what?
Okay, so back foot comes in, turn to face the other corner, and step out. And again, in, turn, and step out. Good. So really watch out that your weight is 50-50. You don't want to be too much forward.
And also, I just realized that breathing thing is still important. So I catch myself all the time as I'm learning a new skill that I stop breathing. So exhale. And the inhale will come naturally.
Good. How does that feel?
I can start to feel it working.
Okay. So if it's a little bit too difficult, come up a little bit. If it's too easy, get down.
Excellent. Do we have one more?
We do have one more. This one is a little bit more difficult, so just be careful. Okay? We're going to start in crane horse stance. And from here, we step behind, and we're going to twist and unwind this way. Okay? So again, I'm going to go behind and twist. Behind and twist.
Let's do one of those.
Yes.
And then see how that works. All right.
So from my crane horse stance here, I choose to go one way. And now the foot that's planted, I'm going to turn on the heel as the other one turns on the toe. And then from here, I'm back into crane horse stance.
Beautiful. So this puts our basic steps into motion, but of course, there's more to it. We're going to have to add upper body motion as well, so that you can add both the crane fists with the crane stepping, and that's coming up right now. So obviously, there's a lot more that we can learn about the basic white crane stances and the movements or whatever, but let's move on to doing something with the upper body, some of the punches and basic hand shapes here. What do we do first?
The first one we're going to start with is actually a little bit more difficult, but everything starts from the waist.
Starts from the waist. And by the way, if you haven't already done so, this is something that you should definitely be practicing with us. So go ahead and stand up, face John, just like you're looking at him in the mirror, and we start from the waist. Got it.
Okay, so from here, we're going to turn to one side. As we do that, we bring one hand up, and the forearm is straight up this way. And we turn our body, and the other hand comes from underneath, and turn palm up. And the other side, turn, and turn. Turn, and turn. When you're here, watch out for your elbow. You want to be about a fist away from your body here. Okay? And also, watch out for your wrist. You don't want it to be here, pointing down, or up too much. nice and flat if you can. And again, turn and turn. Turn and turn.
Now, is there a special name for all these different fists?
I actually don't know. There are special names, but I don't usually pay attention to those.
You know, sometimes the names of these different techniques have been lost in the course of history. Now, I'm not saying that this particular one was lost, but it's very common for us to have a whole lot of techniques that are practiced in a martial arts style for which new names have to be made, or which there's a knowledge that there was a more ancient reference to this, but over the course of centuries, it gets lost, and we just are left with the technique itself.
Yeah, and, you know, when I remember the name, I'll let you know.
Okay.
So, turn and turn. Turn and turn. Okay, so to help you visualize this, I'm going to ask Amy to be my partner for a quick application. So remember, this is from a short to mid-range fighting style. So we can either start from tangling or we can start from a punch. I'll let you decide.
You're the instructor, so whatever you say.
Oh, start from a punch. I want to see you punching.
From a punch? Okay, so
Always a punch.
From a punch, Amy's going to punch in. And this first one is a block. So I want to have my wrist back to tighten these tendons so that I don't hurt myself. 1, and this hand comes straight in. 2. Okay? So again, 1 and 2. Okay? So let's move on. Let's do another one. So from here, we're going to start up. Back hand is chambered. Front hand, palm, and fingers pointing straight up. From here, I'm going to come underneath with my back hand and open. And the same thing, underneath and open. Under and open.
And as always, the breathing, I'm still a big fan of it.
Okay, so for this, let's say inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. And again, for application, let's say from a punch, why don't I have you punch with this hand so that we can see it? So when she punches in, I can block and I come straight in. Sorry about that.
Right.
This can strike or I can grab right away for something else. Okay, so again, in, 1 and 2. Sorry, a little bit slower. 1 and 2, straight in. Okay? Let's do one more for now. So we start off very similar, but now we're going to rotate this front hand about 45 degrees. And from here, we're going to come straight out and straight back. And again. And again. Okay? This one will actually be a little bit different. So before we had this movement where it was very stiff, very rigid. But now we're going to try to soften it up. And we want to add a little bounce to the motion. Okay? So if I show you, this is the one that we just did before. We open, and we open. Very stiff, very rigid. And now from here, we're going to soften up. So here, and bounce back. Out, extend all the way, and bounce back. Extend and bounce. Okay? So let's try this a few times. Extend, stiffen, and then bounce. Extend and bounce back. 1 and 2. Okay, this movement is just a palm strike, so we want to have this bounce back so that we can have a recoil for a second attack. Okay?
It might feel better. I'm just thinking if I could get a little bit more speed out of there so I could feel that recoil.
Yes, a little bit faster. You just don't want to do too fast. If you do it too fast, too high, then you can injure yourself, your tendons and ligaments.
Got it.
Okay, so if you want to try the bounce, let's try it a few times.
All right.
Okay, and we'll start low. So instead of up here, we'll start down this way. Okay, so a little bit of bounce, a little bit faster. And again, remember to breathe. So on the strike, exhale. Okay, if you feel comfortable with that, let's go a little bit higher, about shoulder level. So from here and out. Okay, So again, you want this bounce back so that you can throw another strike, or it helps to add penetration power. So anytime I strike, it's very rigid, kind of like a baseball bat. But if I bounce it back, it's kind of like a whip, and it goes deeper. Okay? So again, with a partner, we don't have too many off of an attack for this one. It's mostly just to practice. You have multiple targets. So if I want to attack solar plexus, I can change this way, but I want to actually get right under the rib cage, and that's why I have this 45-degree angle. So here and straight in this way. Okay? Last hand technique. This one is the most difficult, so we'll go really, really slow. You want to have one hand up like this, kind of like a wing. Okay? Your thumb should be tucked in. Anytime your thumb is out, it's easy to get grabbed, so keep that in. And the other hand up this way. Okay, so you see there's a slight bend in my wrist. And now from here, we're just going to come out with the back hand and in with the front. And then we exchange those. Okay, one more time. So here, up, and now out, and then in. So this motion. Okay, to get to the other side, we're just going to come down. So now we have the wing on this side, and across, and then out, and in, this way. And again, 1 and 2. And again, 1 and 2. This motion is the same as the one that we just did before. You want to have a bounce. So from here, nice little bounce. Remember, everything comes from the hip. This is very difficult. 1, 2. There you go. And again, 1, 2. Okay. Let's stick to one side for now. So let's just do this side. 1, 2. Everything from the hip. So as I open the hip, this hand comes out, this bottom hand comes out. As I come back and close, this top hand goes out. And again, 1, 2. Okay? So now with a partner, this can be off of a punch. Let's do this hand. Yeah. So from here, I get in, and I actually have the neck here. So if I add the power, this power in to break the neck. Okay? Let's not try that at home. So one more time. 1 and 2. Okay?
Beautiful. So this seems like a pretty good repertoire. Does this represent the White Crane style?
Yes.
Because I can definitely see, like, there's a bird, there's a crane. Is this one of the things that we were looking for?
Yes. The White Crane style, our style of White Crane comes from, it's called Zhonghe, or ancestral crane. So what represents our style is the shaking of the hips, especially. Okay? And then the theory when you actually get into fighting or for sparring, that side will also come out for our style.
Beautiful. So here are some basic components of what a martial arts style like White Crane consists of. Footwork, motion down the floor, hand techniques, how we do this with a partner for self-defense. All this comes together in what's known as Tolu, or the routines or forms. And we're going to do that in the next lesson. So here in the West, most people who practice martial arts are doing it as a part of another lifestyle, like they have jobs or family or school or something like that. And then they go down to the martial arts center where they're taking classes, maybe 2 or 3 lessons a week if they're really pretty dedicated student. So that's like 2 or 3 hours out of a whole week that they're doing training. But for some people, martial arts training takes up a whole lot longer. Now, how long have you been practicing martial arts?
I've been practicing for about 25 years now.
About 25 years. And may I ask how old you are?
I'm 29 right now.
So 29. So literally since you were like 4 or 5 years old, you've been practicing martial arts.
Yes.
Consistently. But then about 9 years ago, something changed.
Yes. 9 years ago, my master Master Yang Jingming, moved to Northern California, where he established a center strictly for practice and studying martial arts.
So this center, this retreat center, is a residential program, right? And how many months out of the year are you there?
We are there for 9 months out of the year.
9 months out of the year. 9 months out of the year, and like, how many days a week do you train?
5.5.
5.5 days a week, and how many hours a day?
Depending on the day, usually 8 to 10 hours a day.
8 to 10 hours a day. So 9 years in a row, 5.5 days a week, 8 to 10 hours a day for constant training. Obviously, that's what leads you to this high level of expertise. And I'm talking about this because this is a big contrast to the way that most people practice martial arts. So there's a wide range, between one extreme, like where you're living, and the other extreme, like how most people in the United States practice martial arts, right? So if you're considering taking up a martial art and you want to begin this journey towards an expertise, know that there's a whole big range that you could be participating, anywhere from going to live on a retreat center like where Jonathan lives, to just doing a couple of classes a week. Well, I'm looking forward to learning more from you. But right now, can you show me a little bit more? I think Amy wants to learn a little bit more. I'm not quite sure I have this wing thing down.
Sure.
Here, I'm going to get on this side over here. You just show us where that goes.
So this wing you want to have directly under your armpit, and I want to have a straight line out this way. So I turn 1,